What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to the upper finals of the Strixhaven Championship. I'm Ailey Loney alongside Cedric Phillips, and we have got a good old Jeskai turns mirror match here, Cedric. Sam Pardee versus John Girardot.
You may have seen me lean back in my chair there, Ailey, because I'm buckling up for a long one here. But you know, the thing about this matchup, it can be a short one sometimes too. You know, it kind of varies a little bit. What we do know is that we are in Steam Vent Central here, folks. We're going to see some Velomachus perhaps at some point over the course of this, some Shark Typhoon, some memory lapses, all that jazz. You see both players opening hands here. Relatively good as they work on the decision making, but I'm buckling in for a long one. Maybe I will be pleasantly surprised. We'll see.
I mean, did we see the upper quarterfinals? Did you see how quickly that one game ended? It was just like, blink and you miss it. Good old Velomachus taking a million turns and killing Logan Nettles.
It can go quickly. The sideboarded games with all the interaction players have, I'd be a little bit surprised if that were the case. But like I said, we're playing upper finals here, and so I just kind of want to buckle down for a long and a good one personally. So lean on back is what I'm gonna do.
Do exactly that as we get both players ready to rock and roll here, getting their mana sorted out to hopefully interact with whatever the opponent is going to do. Now, taking a look at both of these lists, obviously this is the mirror match, but there are some key differences in this list. John Girardot obviously more focused on the creature control, as we see that Sweltering Suns cycled away to draw another card. Who do you think's got the upper hand in this first game?
Boy, it's so close as far as who has the upper hand and who doesn't, just because it does revolve entirely around Velomachus and the Time Warp chain, in my estimation. I guess if I had to lean one way, I mean, I really do love that Pardee has those main deck copies of Shark Typhoon. I'm really, really into that. So, but boy, is game one really close. It really, really is.
Yeah, it certainly is. So Prismari Command discarding 2 cards here after drawing 2. So Time Warps are going to go in the bin there. Now, you mentioned the Shark Typhoons. Those are typically a card that comes in after sideboarding and you take out the whole Time Warp package. So do you think that Sam's already in post-board thinking? Is he just thinking, okay, cool, well, I kind of know what you're doing. I know what I want to do. How important is this combo then of getting Velomachus out?
Still very, very, very important in the first game. Still the game plan here for both players. It is nice that Sam has a little something different to play towards. I mean, that's definitely a benefit. But at the end of the day, we are still talking about Velomachus doing its thing. Let's not kid ourselves there.
Prismari Command is the draw here for John Girardot as he considers the options in terms of land drops. Just going to go for the Sulphur Falls and pass the turn back here to Sam, who draws a mountain off the top. Looks like we're going to go for the Rogran Triumph, get that down on the battlefield. Those, of course, allowing for the hard-casted Velomachus Lorehold if needs be. But ideally, you're not hard-casting the powerful dragon. Prismari Command here from John Girardot, going to draw 2, discard 2, finds Indomitable Creativity, and another Triumph off the top.
What are we going to discard now? His hand is a little all over the place. It behooves you to have something relevant in the graveyard because of Mizik's Mastery, so you could, discard a Time Warp. Okay, so it looks like that's headed to the graveyard, and now we just kind of keep moving forward. You do have something to sacrifice to creativity now in this treasure. Do we battle over this? I mean, Sam does have a beautiful setup here in that he does have double laps, so he can win the war over creativity and then creativity himself and go absolutely nuts. So
yeah. It kind of does feel like whoever gets to creativity first is most certainly going to win the game. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel that way, especially if you're able to chain into probably just one Time Warp, you're probably just clear for takeoff and good to go, and it's easy mode from there. So, there's going to be posturing insofar as, these players are going to try to pick their best spot that they can to resolve creativity because it does lead to wins so often. So there's Girardot definitely could have went for it last turn. Yep. If he did, he almost certainly would have lost. So when do you pull the trigger on that? Boy, is that a tough question to answer, which is why these players are here and I'm got my headset on covering the games.
Well, both players certainly looking for ways to protect Indomitable Creativity when it is on the stack. So we're going to see potentially a bunch of digging until they can't really do anything else. We've seen a couple times where their hand has been forced, where it's like, okay, I've got nothing else really to do, so sure, why not? Let's try it and see if it sticks. Sometimes it pays off, other times it backfires miserably. Curate drawn there for John, passes the turn back. Gonna get a Fatal Passage down. There's just so much in both hands here for both these players. As end step, we're going to see Curate here. An interesting inclusion in the list, allowing you to dig a couple of cards deeper into the library. Finds a second copy of Memory Lapse. Okay, so we might be in the territory where we could get into a counter war over Indomitable Creativity, but who is going to pull the trigger first?
That's the $1 billion question. Who's willing to pull the trigger first in this situation? Who's willing to go for it? Because you can just keep setting up, right? There's so much card draw in these decks that you can try to sculpt into the perfect position. So here you see an example of that. Expressive Iteration. What is this doing? Well, it's not getting you any closer to the combo because Sam already kind of has that set up with creativity and a treasure on the battlefield. It's more about just a little bit more setup. You know, find a land, pick up a copy of Brainstorm. You got 2 fetch lands on the battlefield now for the old Brainstorm, put 2 back, shuffle them away. So just sculpting away.
Yeah, also making sure to hit all their land drops, keeping up with the opponent on mana, making sure that you don't get too far ahead, or don't get too far behind, excuse me, to be able to win the counter wars when the time does come.
So here's a Brainstorm. Man, that was... Let's see. So there's a Fabled Passage involved with this for Girardot as well. So again, this can be a perfect Brainstorm, quote unquote.
Yeah, also finding the Dwarven Mind to create another token for Indomitable Creativity to hit. So nice find there for John. Oh, we're at discard time. That's one way to get some stuff in the bin, huh?
To be sure. So Sam with 7 cards, cast a Brainstorm down to 6, up to 9, down to 7, sacrifice. Okay. So we might see him Brainstorm on the end step, Brainstorm, and then shuffle away the cards he puts back.
Yeah. Here comes Dwarven Mine, creating that little 1/1 that has the potential to become a big old Velomachus, but at this point, John would lose the counter war with the Memory Lapses.
Well, if we take a look at this, right, you go Creativity, Sam lapses, you lapse back, he lapses back, you lapse back. So it looks like I think John actually wins the counter war right now.
Oh, no, John would win, yes.
Yeah, because he has that, because they both have 2 lapses. Now, the question is, when we take a look at Sam's mana, he has enough to be able to do this. Like, as far as Sam can cast both the lapses, John has enough mana, it looks like, to do everything he wants to do, but he's just going to wait. So there's the predictable Brainstorm on the end step. Draw 3, put 2 back, almost certainly shuffle a couple of cards away.
Yeah, so one of the cards is going to be a Rogan Triumph as well as the Time Warp. Those will go back into the library and we can shuffle that away, as you mentioned. Curious to see if we'll see a Prismari Command here too on the end step before taking the turn back. Just get one more look at some cards. Or just happy to take the turn. Let's see. Dwarven Mind is the draw here for Sam Pardee, so another target here for Indomitable Creativity.
I really wonder if Sam feels like he's good. Clear for takeoff. Because again, we're talking open deck list here now too. Yep. So 4 lapses is what Girardot has access to. As far as counter magic is concerned. So if you're Sam, you're just trying to think of, okay, how does this go poorly for me? You know, like, there's nothing like a Fry I have to worry about in game number 1. And Sam, because I've watched him play for so long, he's pretty confident when he plays strategies like this, that when it's time to go, it's time to go. Yeah. I don't think he does a lot of second guessing himself when he plays these games. So I am curious when he's going to fire off. That's interesting.
Yeah. So with Magma Opus in hand, the consideration for Pardee could be, okay, you do what you want to. If you just pass the turn back on your end step, I can try, test the water with Magma Opus.
Yeah, that's true.
See what you have.
That is one heck of a test spell.
Yeah. It's just like, well, look, I mean, he's got so much mana to work with here. He only has to show for it on the battlefield right now as a 1/1 and a treasure token. Ooh, okay. All right, so Magma Opus in the bin there for John Girardot. Fabled Passage, Mizzix's Mastery in hand. Still has that Velomachus Lorehold on the top of the library, so ideally would like to get that shuffled back in.
Yeah, here we go.
For it now.
Yeah, I think this might just be go time.
All right, let's start blowing up some stuff and tapping things.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 damage to the token, 3 to face. Has 2 mana up to fight over the spell.
Yeah, this is a great end of turn effect to get the pardon the pun, the party started.
The party started.
Because not only now does Sam have a battlefield that's this is basically gonna force John to interact, but also Sam can play this game with these creatures and just cast Time Warp.
Yep.
And try to like win the game that way.
Yeah, don't even need the dragon.
So now Time Warp is more or less a lethal spell in addition to creativity, kind of hitting a dragon, stuff like that. So yeah. Sam has put himself in a pretty enviable position right now.
Yeah, and a follow-up Magma Opus on the end step here too that John will have to fight over.
Yeah, and now John, because of the pressure that he's under, he actually has to move. He can't sit anymore because, as an example, you go down to 5, Sam casts a Time Warp. You don't want to see that happen, so you actually have to fight over that card, and that's one less counterspell that you have access to. So this is the turn that John has to make his move. So now you're going to see the creativity lapse, all that jazz nonsense now.
How many laps was that? Almost a freaking marathon at this rate.
4 times, yeah. No running, thank you.
Yeah, no, running is the devil. But let's just keep things going here. Double creativity is on the stack, targeting 2 of the tokens. And we are going to have a good old lapse battle here. That John Girardot will win. So can he finish the game off right here?
Yeah, he should win. He should win this memory lapse battle pretty easily. And then we take a look at Sam's hand. Sam has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has access to 7 mana. So here's Prismari command. And so now this is where you blow up an artifact that the creativity, because it looks like creativity is just targeting 1 artifact right now. I don't know if it's targeting both. But this is where you blow up the thing that creativity is targeting, so it's countered upon resolution. Another lapse doesn't hurt.
Yep. So one of those laps that were put back will be able to relapse, I guess.
Yeah, Sam, so he gets so creativity may have been targeting multiple things. It's irrelevant because he found another memory lapse, but Sam did like just a beautiful job of just sculpting, getting set up, not moving too quickly. Magma Opus on the end step. Now it's just attack, Time Warp, kill you.
And
it's
dead,
just game over. Yeah.
So Sam Pardee is pretty damn good.
Game. It was really well played game here by Sam, which I wouldn't expect anything but
less. Going for the overloaded Mythic's Mastery too, just for the fun of it. And Jean Girardot is happy to see none of that. Let's go to sideboard here, and let's do some transforming, Cedric.
And actually,
look at all the blue cards coming in.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see just a bunch of blue cards come out. Velomachus and Time Warps come out. A bunch of blue cards come in. Velomachus and Time Warps go out. But one thing that I actually kind of missed in that exchange there was letting the memory lapse resolve and then Prismari commanding into the lapse is actually what took place there. Some of that action was happening a little bit quickly, so I missed that, and that's on me. But you let the lapse and the lapse resolve, and then he just drew a memory lapse again to counter the creativity. So that was actually really good. Yeah,
giving himself extra lapses, 3 for the price of 2, kind of.
In a way. All
right, so sideboard times for both players. We're going to see pretty similar changes being made here. All 3 copies of Velomachus out for John Girardot, 2 copies out for Sam Pardee, only running the 2 copies. So it's going to become more of a draw, go, wait for you to do something. I'm going to counter your stuff and then hit you with a massive commence the end game, or, just blow up your face with a big old Magma Opus.
Yeah, they basically become Jeskai control decks after sideboard. In which, both players are just kind of hanging around, hit some land drops, do some brainstorming, discard Magma Opus to make a treasure a lot of the time, Prismari command, draw 2, make a treasure, that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, well, I think you were right in your settling in for a long matchup. The first game certainly took a while for things to happen, but then when it did, whoo boy. There was a bunch of stuff happening all at once there on that turn.
Yeah, in the first game, a lot of the time, like if you drag out into that position of a player not going for it early, it kind of just becomes like this. Okay, let's have this flurry let's have this flurry of spells over just the big spell. In this instance, the big spell was of course Indomitable Creativity. So we saw that. We got to see a bunch of counter magic and a bunch of spells played, and Sam was far enough ahead that he was able to win that counter war and win via Magma Opus.
And you see just how important the digging is in this deck. The brainstorms, the Prismari commands, just being able to shore up the top cards of your library and make sure that you're not hitting blanks, because the more interaction that you have in hand is going to increase your chances of winning when it comes to that sort of situation.
For sure.
All right, so we have one Magma Opus in the bin here for Sam Pardee. Treasure token on the battlefield. Deciding what land he wants to go for. Likely to see a Brainstorm on the end step into a Shuffle with a Fabled Passage. Another Magma Opus, creating a treasure token too.
He's at least given himself the option of that. The Brainstorm plus Fetch Away. So for John, it's now just a 1/1 off the Dwarven Mine. Not bad. Here is the Brainstorm. Draw 3, put 2 back. I mean, lands are good and bad. I mean, Sam would like some more action, of course, but he also doesn't want to miss land drops in what has become, just a control mirror now at this point, because that's what these sideboarded games do look like. It's about hitting land drops and cycling large Shark Typhoons and resolving a Commence the End Game, stuff like that. So land drops aren't the worst place to be.
Yeah, it's important to make sure you keep up on mana, that you have all of your tools available to you. Prismari Command here available at the moment for John Girardot. He doesn't have much else to do. Turn's just going to pass back here to Sam Pardee. We're just going to keep developing the mana bases here and wait for the opponent to do something. So on the end step, potential to fire off the Prismari Command, Time Warp drawn. Nice pickup there. And these little doors, they're going to get off to work on Sam Pardee's life total. Here comes Prismari Command. Going to create another treasure token, it looks like. Are we going to see it targeting the treasure token of John Girardot? Yes, indeed.
Yeah. This allows you to continue to try to build a mana advantage by blowing up your opponent's treasure and creating your own.
Is this a good time to commence?
Maybe. It's kind of interesting. I mean, we're thinking about it.
An uncountable spell, not many things deal with the big amass token, but looks like we're just going to go for the memory lapse here, potentially, from John Girardot.
And are we going to battle over this, which is also kind of interesting, because Sam does have a mystical dispute that he can cast if memory lapse gets placed onto the stack. Well, that's actually not going to get you anywhere, so let's ignore that. Unless you actually want to just tap him out for some reason, which, no, I don't think that's going to be the case, so... Are we going to battle over this? Or is it going to be Commence? Is it going to be Lapse? Is it going to be Prismari Command for something that we may not be expecting?
Several decisions here with Prismari Command on the stack. I like a Commence the Endgame. Let's get some zombies on this battlefield.
All right. Well, Girardot does too. So is this Peel 2 make a 6/6? Okay.
Yeah. That is a big old creature, and getting this battlefield assembled here and able to just chop away at the life total of Sam Pardee just puts another layer of pressure on outside of the counter spells and the removal and all that other nonsense. Just having these creatures down is a big benefit here for John.
Yeah, and Sam's hand's actually quite bad, and John's hand's actually quite good. You see that he's kind of loaded up with a lot of spells. Multiple copies of Memory Lapse to defend himself. There's a Dwarven Mine to make another 1/1 to continue to clock Sam. Sam's drawn another land here and just has a bunch of counter magic. So I'm not saying the game is over, but it's certainly looking extremely difficult here for Pardee.
Yeah, it certainly is. John will be quite happy to just keep delivering the beatdowns here. As we're going to Prismari Command, draw 2, discard 2. In response, we'll see a Rogran Triumph cycled. Go digging for a couple more options. Perilous Voyage, that's a good way to deal with that 6/6.
Yep, seen worse. That's a nice find.
Mm-hmm. Mountain and Curate off the top of the library. What goes back in?
Decisions here. Let's see. So maybe a time warp. You can discard warp because we're resolving a Prismari command. So, okay, warp and Opus, two big spells, but you don't have a ton of mana, so just gonna discard those big spells and keep your cheap spells and curate Brainstorm Double Lapse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're gonna see Perilous Voyage take care of the 6/6, hopefully. But John does have the mana available to fight over it. Looks like he's going to let it resolve, though. Time Warp and Prismari Command, scrying the Prismari Command to the bottom. Where does Time Warp go? Looks like that's going to stay on top. The Sam Pardee will be hoping to resolve that next turn's Curate on the stack. So John will take a look at the top two cards of the library. Oh, Shark Typhoon. Yeah, and Prismari Command. Both very, very nice cards. Alright, so Shark Typhoon stays on top. That'll create another massive threat on the battlefield for John when he wants to deploy it.
Yeah, it took care of the Commence the Endgame token, which was very important there for Pardee, and this is essentially a replacement of that by cycling the Shark Typhoon. So that's a pretty nice find there for Girardot. There's a Time Warp. We'll see... see if Sam, I think Sam has to cast this. I don't know if it's gonna get countered because there's really nothing going on. So I think if you're John, you're just like, okay, that's fine. Take another turn, I guess.
Yeah. Oof.
Yep.
That's not what you want to see. Just a mountain off the top of the library and only reactive spells in hand for Pardee. So he is under fire at this point. On the end step, will we see a big Shark Typhoon or a Brainstorm to kick things off here for John Girardot? Just a reminder to anyone who is joining us, this is the upper finals. Whoever wins here will progress to the championship match and await their opponent as the lower bracket is sorted out. Brainstorm on the end step finds a Fry, an Island, as well as a Prismari Command off the top. And if you just look at these two hands, you've got to say that John is just miles ahead of Sam Pardee at this point.
Super far ahead. Super far ahead.
So much to do.
Yeah, not even close.
Fatal Passage will shuffle away some cards. Still curious to see if a Shark Typhoon is on the cards here for John, or is he just happy to get the turn back.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the best thing that Sam can do right now is just effectively try to bluff a Shark Typhoon, but because Fry doesn't kill it. Like if you block, Fry still doesn't kill it. Now Girardot's still going to attack, which you saw with the 3/1/1s, because losing a 1/1 to a Shark Typhoon, whatever, these things are just clocking him. So if Sam has Shark, Sam has Shark. Not a big deal. But Sam doesn't have Shark. He's got counter spells that aren't doing much.
No.
That's what he's got.
Time Warp resolves. John takes another turn. Prismari Command is drawn off the top. Sam Pardee not interested in countering that. We'll get the turn back. Only draws a Steam Vents, though, and that is not going to be good enough to help him stay alive in this game. Oh, come on. It's Shark time. You know you want to. Yeah, let's get a big Shark on this battlefield. Oh, he didn't do it. All right, so just a Rogue and Triumph drawn there. Being very, very patient indeed is the French competitor. And a Rogue and Triumph is going to land on the battlefield, and the turn will be passed back. There's a Shark Typhoon. Okay. Is it too little too late, though, Cedric? Can he mount a comeback from here?
It's so no, it should be too little too late, I think. I guess the question now is how much do you cycle the Shark for? I don't think you can just go the full amount. Doesn't feel like you can do the full amount, but also what's Sam's answer to the Shark Typhoon that Girardot's found?
I don't think he's got one.
Yeah, Sam's not maxing out. He is going to do it for 6 and still leave himself with some mana up to be able to defend himself.
Yeah, because he can't take 3 there, knowing that there could be potentially be a Prismari Command that he wouldn't win the fight over.
Yeah.
So one little itty bitty dwarf is going to get taken care of. Here comes the Fry, going to take care of the 6/6 with 1 point of damage on it.
It just feels like at some point Sam's going to actually have to cast a spell.
Yeah.
And then that's where the lapses kind of mess things up. that Girardot has.
Okay, so we're going in for another swing here with 2 1/1s. Oh, going for the big old shark again.
Yeah, does he want to
How
do it
big
for
do we want to make
less?
this?
I don't know if he's. I don't think he's going to play around another fry because this lets him play all 3 counter spells that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this makes sense. This is very much if you have another fry, I'm dead anyway. So whatever.
Pretty much,
So,
yeah.
Yep.
All right, so the 5/5 going to block the other 1/1. Goes down to 2, so within Prismari command range. It's going to be too tempting to fire this off, so John Girardot is going for the Prismari command.
So now this is all right. Let's battle.
Time to counter some things. Prismari command on the stack. Ether Gust in response. Let's get a memory lapse going here. And another memory lapse, then another memory lapse, then a mystical dispute. And then we'll figure this all out.
So lapse on the gust. Sam's gonna crack. Gonna use this lapse on. Let's see, lapse or command. Looks like he's gonna put it on command. Okay.
Oof, then he's just gonna have to hope to draw something next turn. Yeah, maybe it's better on the Ether Gust. Or excuse me, on the memory lapse.
Okay, looks like it is targeting the lapse. Classic memory lapse battles. Been a while.
Oh yeah. This card is quite annoying, I won't lie.
Annoying is the best way to describe it, because that's what it is.
Yep.
And now mana left over, enough to pay for dispute, and good to go. So,
That's me.
Girardot is going to discard a couple of cards real quick here and tie it up.
It's like, I know you're dead, but just let me discard these 2 cards quickly, if that's all right. All right, so game number 3 is on the cards here between our 2 upper finalists, Sam Pardee and John Girardot. It is the Jeskai turns mirror. This deck has certainly been the deck of the tournament. If it wins, it most certainly will be an undisputed deck of the tournament, but it's just so powerful, and it has such a good sideboard plan against most of the field.
It just has a lot of flexibility, and that's really appealing. Is you play as this combo deck effectively in game number 1, and in the sideboarded games you play as a control deck in the Steam Vents mirror, and you do a really nice job of it. It is kind of interesting though. I will note this, that the players that are in the finals here, neither of them have the Nezahals in the sideboard. They both have commenced the end game. I know there's been a lot of chit chat around just how good Nezahal has been in these Steam Vent mirrors, but none here in the finals.
I wonder if these players count themselves lucky to avoid the Nezahal version of this deck. Getting things kicked off here, Fabled Passage to start for John Girardot, Sulphur Falls into the Dwarven Mine. For Sam Pardee, there's an island, Fry drawn off the top of the library. It's a good answer for the bigger threats on the board. And once again, both players just happy to get their land down and pass. Anything to do on the end step. Here are the curates, but this one's going to get mystically disputed. No looking at cards on the top of the library for you. Quite an interesting inclusion. I don't think too many players are playing with the curates in their deck. It's kind of like an instant speed expressive iteration, but not as good.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different card. It's a card that we've not seen a ton of. Here's a Brainstorm. Oh yeah, Pardee getting aggressive with the counter magic, and I'm kind of into it.
Yeah, I like it.
As someone who's watched like a lot of, I've covered a lot of Legacy and formats with cheap cantrips, and I've always kind of wondered, because a lot of the time in those formats they're just, Brainstorm resolves, Preordain resolves, Ponder resolves, and I'm always like, what if someone just aggressively tried to counter those cards? What would happen? Just for like one tournament, they're like, yeah, I'm countering every Brainstorm and Preordain people play against me, because they're relying on those cards to tie their hands together to actually bridge the gap. And so Sam getting very aggressive with these disputes, which I'll tell you what, I'm into it.
Yeah, I like it, and because look how clogged up John Girardot's hand is now. He's got 3 very expensive spells, can discard the Opus to get a treasure, finds a Mizzix Mastery, and only has the Memory Lapse to react to whatever Sam wants to do.
And it's worth noting, Sam, when he looked at his opening hand of like multiple Time Warps, multiple disputes, only 2 lands at Shark Typhoon, I mean, that was like a snap keep. like he didn't even really think it through very much. He's like, yeah, I'm keeping. Let's go.
Yeah, she's like, this is fine.
Yeah, and now now he's casting Commence, which is uncounterable. That's 2 more cards on the way and gonna make a big. So, like I'm not surprised that he kept. I was surprised at the immediacy in which he kept.
Yep, that was also almost immediate. Yep, this is fine. We can win with this. As 7 points of damage are gonna fly in here. Well, not fly. One of them is flying. Down to 11 goes John, who's going to discard yet another Magma Opus. Does have that copy of Mizzix's Mastery and would be able to resolve it unless Shark Typhoon found a way to prevent that off the top of the library. Now, John also has a Commence the Endgame available to him thanks to those treasures.
Yeah, but now, these Time Warps, which I was unsure how good these were going to be in the sideboarded games, now all of a sudden, these Time Warps, they take it home, right? Because you attack with everything, Girardot commences the end game, and then you just Time Warp, attack you again, see you later.
Yep, looks like that's potentially what we could see happen here as we swing in here for 11 points of damage. So this is lethal. We're going to need a response here from John. What is it going to be, though? Are we just going to kill one of these sharks to keep up the memory lapse, or are we just going to go for Commence the Endgame?
Yeah, we go with Commence. This is the highest upside play, and this is a W here for Sam now, right? Because there's your block. Deal you 6, play my Time Warp, and kill you dead.
With big sharks. Well done. Sam Pardee is our very first finalist in the championship match, but John Girardot is not out of it yet. He'll drop down to the lowers and try and fight his way back up. But big congratulations to Sam Pardee getting the win there.